then too, you know.
Facts.
I mean, whatever. So
and it's even will you do you see comments and shit? Is it that type of interactive situation or like?
Yeah, you can. Yeah,
okay.
It's kind of interface is kind of like live.
Okay, got you. Because I was gonna say, at some point, do you want to get into comments? Do you want to get into comments at some point?
Yeah, definitely will.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like the comments will stream up just like live does.
Okay. Gucci. You know, we old, bro. We learning this shit on the fly. Niggas is out here. Oh man, I used to be so fine with this technology, but well, you know it, niggas was ticking and talking, and now we.
Right. Like, I was with my nieces the other day, and they was out there doing a TikTok, and I was so intrigued. Like, yeah, I was asking them all types of questions.
Yeah, it's real like that. Be the old folks. I'm fucking with it though. Like being old, man. Seasoned.
It's still loading up.
I'm excited for this Juneteenth though. I feel like, bro, I don't know. It's more on a somber note. What's up with the APD, man?
Oh, I heard.
Bruh, nigga, tear the city up, right?
That's why I was about to go down. Like, that's a wrap. Like, that's it.
Come on, man.
That's it. Like, yeah, that's it. Like, and you know, and it almost like it sucks in a way because it's like, well, not in a way, but it sucks, period. But it's like, I feel like we try to do the peaceful protesting, and it's almost like a slap in the face. Like, trying to do this shit right. Here you go with the dumb shit. Now you want us to act the fool. You know what I mean? Like that's like I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.
Yeah, you can't press conference your way out of this one, buddy.
Yeah,
you can't kill a mic your way out this one. You're gonna have to goddamn sit with this one. Cause like, nigga, come on. But it's not like it's not anything we don't know that's gonna happen and keep repeating itself. So it's like that. I think that's what's so radical about the moment. We know that this is gonna keep happening. So at what point do we actually we're gonna talk about do something different?
And I feel like Atlanta's saving grace had been that it had not happened yet in this city. It's a wrap. Like literally when I heard, I was like, that's literally my hands like, that's a wrap.
Yeah, it just I don't know, man. Man, just gotta roll with it, man. Spirit moving.
We on up, baby. So good morning, everybody, man. It's our first time running the YouTube live. So appreciate y'all joining us, tuning in with us, man. Bearing with us while we get our legs up under us a little bit. For everybody who knows, I'm sure, I'm Mike, co-founder of the Free Roots Project. I got my dog Fool at the Trap Therapist. Make sure you go follow him, fuck with him. Got my girl Crystal at Let's Be Crystal Clear. Make sure you go fuck with her. We doing our thing. So today we're actually going to get into talking about gender roles in the movement. I thought it was fitting. I know for the last few lives we've done on Instagram, we've talked a lot about alpha male and where Black women stand and all that kind of stuff. And we've had really good talks and dialogues about that. And with everything that's going on with Brother George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Avery, and all the uprisings that we got going on. Power to the people, by the way. But everything we got going on that we can kind of merge and bridge that dialogue to kind of get a good discussion going. One of the main things I think we need to focus on too is where we go moving forward and what does forward look like for us. And one of the most important dynamics of that within the Black community is how Black men and Black women see each other and treat each other. So we're gonna have that discussion here, and we're gonna make it lively. Definitely jump in. I got two of the brightest minds in the game with me, so what I'm saying, they're gonna make me look real good. They're gonna make me look real good right now. So getting into it, as we all know, we were brought to this continent, not for the first time, but in mass, we were brought to this continent in about 1619 as bonded folks to work for white people in this country. And basically, since we've been brought here, we've been trying our best to rebel and regain a footing on our own unity. So right now, I just want to kind of talk about a brief history of what women look like in that struggle. So, I think the first tied to national official movement, although we've had resurrections and rebellions and micro stuff and macro stuff, but the first, I think, large network on this country with civil unrest was actually the Underground Railroad. So when you talk about the Underground Railroad, in doing my reading, doing my research, when I looked it up, you can hardly find stuff about women, about Black women. Most of the conversation centers around white men, which is hella disheartening. Now, some of that is a function of the only folks who were asked were white men. Black folks weren't asked about their own experience. Surprise, surprise. But even in that, white men take most of the credit. A lot of the conductors, quote unquote, actually belittle Black women's role in the movement, calling them untrustworthy, saying that they didn't have the shrewdness to figure out where to go, how to go, saying that they could be bribed or bought and turned into spies, and that really it was up to the white men to be the moral compass and the integrity factor in the Underground Railroad. Now, what makes it interesting is that in the same breath they say that there are white men and Quakers. So if you talk about the history of the Underground Railroad, you're always talking about Quakers being friends to escaped slaves. So the Quakers did this, the Quakers did that. That's a common thing. You have Quaker farmers admitting to raping women who were running away during slavery. So one of the ways women or families or groups paid their way up the Underground Railroad was when they got to a safe house, more than frequently, a woman, depending on what kind of group you're talking about, had to sleep with the Quaker farmer. And when you say had to sleep with, of course, it's not consensual. So, we're not talking about, they'll describe it as, I believe his exact words were bedding a fugitive slave, but we know that that's not consensual. It wasn't date. He ain't pick up at the club and she was like, "Daddy, let's go." We talking about rape. So for all this friendship and all this alliance, and all this narrative of the Quakers being friends, in order to gain freedom for their family, for their people, you're talking about literally having to sacrifice, among a myriad of other things, their literal body in order to make it happen. So that's not something that's really talked about. When I read it, I'm like, man, it's got to go on Free Roots. But I was like, man, let me wait. Let me, what I'm saying, goddamn wait on it. So
what that allyship really
that's unfortunate. Of course, the most famous woman, what the allyship really looked like. Definitely. So that's unfortunate. What we're talking about with the Underground Railroad, of course, we talk about Harriet Tubman as a well-known figure, and probably when it comes to Black folks, the most well-known figure. We're talking about the Underground Railroad. I would surmise that Harriet Tubman's fame is based on her proximity to the Union Army. Not a lot is spoken about Harriet Tubman until she became a spy for the Union Army, and that was after she escaped and escaped others. She actually joined the army as a spy and gave terrain surveillance and reconnaissance throughout them to help them in more than a few victories up and down the Eastern Coast, right? So until that point, she's not really a hero. She's actually seen as a societal nuisance until she helps the Union. And then as she helps the Union, that's when she becomes more of a folklore, more of a hero to us. So when you're looking at it, she it was her proximity to being near a white man that gave her the credit that she deserved, but that's what gave her the credit. It wasn't her standing on her own. They just started to write about her and tell about her until she showed herself useful to white men, which, so it's all about getting perspective, right?
Yeah.
So moving on to Reconstruction. So, we were emancipated in 1865. We got Juneteenth next week, all that kind of stuff. So get ready for that. We're going to kick it. But in 1865, and for the next 20 years, we had Reconstruction. And Reconstruction was involved Black men striving to obtain their right to vote and actually be able to use it. Well, the interesting thing about this is a lot of Black men nowadays, woke Black men, like to look at feminism as an enemy of Black people. If you go through Reconstruction, through the suffrage movement, Black leaders, your Frederick Douglass, your Booker T. Washingtons, all these people, Du Bois, all these people that they revere, actually tried to align themselves with white women through the suffrage movement. Their logic was that white men would let white women vote, and thus white women would help black men, mind you, Black men get the right to vote. In every literature that I've looked up, they implicitly state Black men. They don't state Black. They don't talk about Black women. There's Black women not mentioned anywhere in anything Frederick Douglass, anything anywhere they're talking about. They don't mention any of it, right? So in that era, you're talking about the rights of Black women forgotten, essentially. You know what I'm saying? Legally, because women couldn't vote, period. But even when you're talking about standing up and trying to obtain rights, that Black women weren't considered, weren't thought of directly after emancipation. So you're talking about a good 40 years where Black women are completely forgotten. So let's start there when you start talking about where Black women need to be and how they need to view the world. You're talking about 2.5, maybe even 3 generations of Black women that were completely disregarded as being citizens, not only by the government, but by, their own male counterparts. So, that's an important mentality and mind frame to have. I just did the Umar thing. So moving on, and again, this is all brief. So I'm not, I'm not going to do a seminar. So yeah, y'all can.
I'm learning though.
So rule, but definitely for everybody looking, y'all can look it up, research it, that kind of stuff. I'm not trying to put y'all to sleep with a history class. So
lay the context down. You gotta
right there we go. So past Reconstruction, we'll get into the movements we're all kind of familiar with, kind of revere the most, even though Reconstruction is important. So we'll jump into Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party, we all know this, Huey Newton, Bobby Seale, all that kind of shit. The Black Panther Party, depending on where you were at, was anywhere between their chapters made up of 50% women to 70% women. So you're talking about a women movement, or a movement of women. But when you're thinking about the Black Panther Party, Huey Newton comes to mind, Eldridge Cleaver, Bobby Seale, Bobby Hutton, all those things, even Stokely Carmichael to a degree, all those kind of people, because they were definitely at the forefront. You might get an Angela Davis in there, you might get an Assata Shakur, but for the most part, when you're thinking about it, you're thinking about Black men, right? But the organization, the structure, the propeller, the engine of the Black Panther Party was Black women, right? So on the opposite end of the spectrum to the Black Panther Party, we have the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement, when I say that, I'm talking about Southern Christian Leadership Council. So we're talking about Martin Luther King, we're talking about SNCC to a degree, we're talking about the Freedom Riders, we're talking about the sit-ins, we're talking about all that kind of stuff, right? And the overarching theme of that was preaching nonviolence. You know what I'm saying? So Dr. King was talking about being nonviolent. Here you have relatively more praise of Black women in this movement than you do any other. Definitely the Underground Railroad, definitely Reconstruction, definitely the Black Panther Party. You know, that's when you have your Harriet Tubman. That's when you have your Rosa Parks. You have your Fannie Lou Hamers. You've got all these women who get to kind of step to the forefront a little bit more. And again, relatively speaking, because it's still not fully encapsulated, but relatively speaking, we're there. Just in my reading and my research, I would surmise that the reason why that was applicable is for two reasons. Is that one, the civil rights movement was based in the church, and church is viewed in the Black community, and I don't necessarily agree with this. We're talking about what it's viewed as. It's viewed in the Black community as something deferential, something demure, something docile, and something that, because of all those things, it's made for women. It's made for Black women, right? So when you're talking about religion, you're talking about spirituality. That's inherently for our culture, especially religion, a thing of the Black women, of the Black woman, right? So the other aspect is we're talking about nonviolence. You know, Dr. King preached nonviolence. So we had the sit-ins, we had the marches, we had all that kind of stuff. So him repeatedly preaching nonviolence comes off again in our society as inherently feminine. That, you know, if you're for peace, if you're for nonviolent, then, you know, you must be feminine, and feminine turns into soft. The reason why Dr. King gets disrespected so much is, you know, he gets called soft. They don't call him, you know, they don't call him too masculine. They don't call him too much of a man. They don't call him extra masculine. You know, they call him soft. They call him a bitch. They call him a punk. They call him whatever you want to call him. Well, that's all rooted in a philosophy that we feel is feminine.
Yeah.
That, you know, peace and, you know, nonviolence, and not even peace, because it's not peace. It's just nonviolent. That nonviolent is a woman trait. That men fight, women don't fight, right? So, because of the culture that was blanketed over that movement, you have women who have the ability in that movement to stand out more than you have in any other movement past that. So that's a really, really brief history, really, really brief. Like, it's volumes and volumes and volumes of every era I kind of mentioned. And there were some eras I actually left out. But that's a really brief history of movements in relation to Black women in this country. So based on that, I do want to get into, and Food Dog Trap Therapist, I'll start with you, talking about nonviolence being inherently feminine, and talk about violence being feminine, and violence being masculine.
Yeah.
And what do you think that does to the male psyche from a spiritual standpoint and from a mental health aspect?
Well, I think kind of just listening to, you know, everything you put, you know what I'm saying, the context is kind of what if I relate it back to what I talk to my clients about, is if, you know, the war is happening in the middle of the ocean, is like regardless, you got to find a way to like move in the ocean, right? So you think about a ship or anything in water, like I think when we look at peace, we forget that you're talking about peace in the context of war, right? So you're talking about the ability not to be nonviolent, but really the capacity and ability to hold your anger, hold your rage, hold all of that and direct it. And I think when we, like the verbiage that we've been taught, and again, it goes back to who's telling the story, right? The intent of narrative, the intent of storytelling. When you talk about the fact that the reason why Harriet Tubman is respected, you know what I'm saying? And you even look, and I go to even from an aesthetic standpoint, we're talking about a dark skinned, you know, disabled, you know what I mean, Black, like we're not talking about someone who even aesthetically, like, you know, appeals to white people, right? So to understand how intentional that has to be, to say, okay, well, this woman here is someone who we respect, right? So I think about the fact that for us as men, when you relegate peace to passivity as opposed to peace to power, that means that we have to constantly be in motion. We cannot sit still, right? That means that we cannot be powerful, and it goes to the energy. And I think why all of this, if we sometimes we touch on it, but the spiritual context has to be there. I think because there is a collective energy, there's a collective message that now goes out to us that says, okay, if you align yourself, regardless of whether you align yourself with Malcolm or Martin, you see what happened to both, right?
Right.
But what it speaks to in the age of the hip hop culture, what it speaks to in the age of our generation is that we're searching for a blueprint. But again, if the narrative is only being told from the perspective of men, as we see whether it's white men or black men, then we have to realize that we have a large part of this blueprint really left out because we're not talking to the women who created it. Mm. So I think about the fact that when it's really how are we defining the things that we use to like label us. We have to really find it, like build our verbiage and kind of expand around what does power look like? How does that manifest? Because if you look at our power now, Black women and their ability to be able to be in proximity to white men, right? If this is what was being given us, who does it the best? If we want to go there, to play devil's advocate, right? Yeah. So if this is the word, if this is what we're working with, who does it the best? So I think about that in terms of ego aside. If we have to deal with our egos as men, to just look at the proof in the pudding. Like, who's able to really move the pieces across the board right now? Who's able to do so? Who's able to really encapsulate their anger and direct it and make sure that it results in a tangible fruit? Black women. So I think it all just goes back to like how we align ourselves with that peace, being about really power. Can you move with that anger? Can you sit with it long enough to know what to do with it? And I think that's some of, where us taking the time to process how we even know our heroes. Like, how do you even, like, what is the context that you know your heroes? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that even look like? Because for everything Martin was in terms of being a family man, I believe Malcolm was even just as much. And we talk about the fact that man died with nothing, right? Right. So we talk about him having to actually like cradle peace and really like, make it tangible in his last days in order to find some type of sense in it, make some type of sense of it all, right? So I think that's the piece we pick apart kind of the times like when for a long time Martin was pretty radical in his speech, right? But we don't really talk about that. And there was a period where Malcolm was very peaceful. He was seeking for understanding. So I think that it goes back to what's the narrative that we're actually sitting with around what that looks like for us and how it manifests.
Right.
Chris, you got something?
No, I'm saying right.
Yeah. Yeah, dog, first of all, you drop some bombs out the gate, of course. You know what I'm saying? When you were like peace in relation to passivity, not being peace in relation to actual power. Yeah. That we look at power as always conquering. Mm-hmm. And we don't look at power as contentment and stillness. Ooh. That what I'm saying, having true power is being within yourself. Yeah. And being content and being free with not having to fight. You know what I'm saying?
Because the thing about it, when I look at us now, I think for us, a lot of us we're too attached to the fight and not at peace with just realizing that the work got to be done. But can you go back to that place of stillness where you're okay, where you have the space to actually laugh, to be happy, to smile, to create a life, to live, right? The privilege that you've been given. So, like you said, at what point do we realize, like, yeah, there's more to this fight that looks like us actually being still enough to talk, to engage with each other? I think that's the huge thing. The context between masculine and feminine men and women is just the reality that those energies have to work together in some capacity to do anything. So whether it's, you know what I mean? So like you said, the conversation being about Black men looking to white women for support, right? Or, you know what I mean? Like that's intentional. That's a very intentional thing. You know what I'm saying? How do we endear? How does that energy endear across genders, right? And how we talk about the fetishization of Black men and all these things, but we don't really sit with the fact that like this is energy. This is shit that we've worked with for eons, for you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But going back to we like to talk about ancestors, and we like to talk about what we did in Africa and this, that, and the third. But I think the reality of it is we were still, right? And then things happen to shake that stillness up. So what happens when we return to that stillness where we really understand that we're unfuckwittable, when we can harness all of it, really.
Yeah. Now is getting to that point, Crystal, and I just want your perspective, being a life coach, being a counselor, and just being a Black woman, is getting to the point when you're dealing with your clients, when you're dealing with our people, getting to the point of peace and stillness. Is that, do you think we even look for that as a goal? Like, when you're talking to people, when you're dealing with that, is that something that even crosses our mind, like as a place to get to?
And that's so I was gonna actually speak when Fu was talking about the idea of power, right? So as a woman, and not even just as a woman, as a people, we have to realize, like, where is that narrative coming from in which we believe that power is an overt action, right? So we always think power is about what we do physically, you know what I mean? And as like a woman's life coach, I'm dealing with a lot of women who feel like taking their power back is always this physical action. I'm gonna fight back. Instead of realizing, like, the highest power you can have is that control of yourself. But that's always on the back burner. To have that control of yourself, and saying you don't realize that when you're doing these overt actions, that it's the lack of power. It's the lack of yourself, because you're just acting out. You have no control. When we're talking about all the rioting and everything that's going on, it's viewed as we're acting out, but we feel like it's us taking our power back, because the narrative that we've been shown is that when we do this, we get results. So we get results by doing this. This must equate to power, without realizing that we lost our internal peace. We are filled with so much rage. You know what I mean? And so now we have to realize, well, which one are we going to go for? Are we going to go for the overt power that's going to get us a quicker result? Or are we going to go for the inner power that may not get us a result for the public, for the society, but it might get us a result for ourselves? So now you got to be faced with a choice.
Because what's the actual goal, right?
Right.
If we're talking about and realize that the micro is the macro, right? So can we master the micro in this moment where we're actually having to be still? You know what I'm saying? Still enough to realize that if we don't take care of us individually, there will not be there is no collective. There is no diaspora if there is not a microcosm of the family that like emanates from space to space. And it's an energy, right? It's how we speak to each other. It's the way that we see each other. It's how we salute each other. It's how we honor each other. And I think we talk a lot about respect, but I think a word that I've been introducing into my language is reverence, right? Respect is a mutual thing. It's a mutual exchange. But if I revere you, I see myself in you. Like, I honor you, right? So there's a different way that I got to move with you, regardless. So if you're a woman, and regardless of the space that we're in, if I revere you, that means I revere myself. There's a certain way that I approach that, right? So there's a way that I engage with this energy, regardless of whether it's in conflict or if it's in peace. But we don't understand how to roll with those ebbs and flows in the micro, so that when we get to the macro, when we have those disagreements as far as strategy and how to move and what to do, we don't just it all go to hell.
And I think it's a good point that you brought about, is speaking about the reverence, because I think it's so often misunderstood between respect and reverence. So many people feel like, I think of when you was talking, I thought about the prime example just growing up of how many fights I've seen from if you step on my J's, right?
Yeah.
Because in essence, what you're saying is you act like you didn't see me. And but
in real life,
you just disrespected my shoes, bro. But it wasn't about that. It boils down to you didn't see me, and I want to be seen.
And say and you just hit me, because it's like that in itself is a language that only we know, right?
Yeah. That is genius. Like that. I mean, that's some nigga shit tied to like some metaphysical shit tied to like some clinical shit. Like that. Like that is. Boom.
Don't step on my J's.
Boom. Means like, you didn't see me. Like,
see me.
Boom.
See me. Yeah.
Right. And I think you have a hard time processing that it's not about the shoes. You know what I mean? And then I've even seen people go to the extent where they say, clean my shoes off. You know what I mean? And they tie it back to respect, but it's not about the respect. It's about the reverence that you feel like you're owed.
Ooh. It's like I see you. And even being in the club, like I'll be out, right? And you know, the fact of the matter is, in a lot of situations, it's not like you in tight quarters, you in tight spaces. My thing is, brother, you see me standing here. You can say, excuse me, my brother. You can say, hey man, hey, I'm trying to get by, right? You won't walk by me and knock me out the way as if my person is not in this space as well, right? Yeah. And that in a moment, because I think you talk about the times where we're vulnerable, right? When we're with each other, when we celebrate, when we groove, and it's a period of love, but at the same time, that's exactly when shit pops off the most. When conflict, when we're comfortable, right? When emotions take over, right?
That's how the party shut down. It's all it was always a party. It was always a club. It was always whatever. And then I'd end. The motherfucker shot it up.
Thank you. It start off as love, right? And then in the conflict that happens with family, that happens with loved ones, it turns left. So at what point will we realize that, it's collective rage we walk around with every day, but are we taking the time to actually make it tangible and work with it? Can you work with that anger? It's righteous anger, it's okay, but can you work with it? Can we work with it? Can we transmute it into something that like builds instead of destroys?
Right.
So getting into that, I think, we, like I said, we talked about violence being inherently masculine, but in leadership being narratively speaking masculine, right? Not that that's necessarily the truth, but just in the narrative we talk in the history of this country, both Black folks and white folks, we talk about leadership being a masculine thing. Even the women we look at as the leaders have quote unquote masculine traits. When you're talking about Harriet Tubman, we're talking about Sojourner Truth. They always talk about Sojourner Truth's height, how big she was. So you're always talking about, either positively or negatively, the attributes women leaders have that remind them of men. Even down to the dress. Somebody wears, a pantsuit, whatever. So women have to be uniformed in a way that reminds us of men in order for them to be taken serious as a leader, right? Like you don't think about Lil' Kim as a leader. You don't think about Trina. You don't think about Cardi. Yeah, you like and we're talking about legends. We're talking about people who have owned their own record labels. We're talking about people, who've done all these things that somehow, Irv Gotti is a leader.
Yep.
But you know what I'm saying? Lil' Kim isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, Baby and Slim are motherfucking leaders. Nicki Minaj isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm saying? So you have this. I would ask for what why do you think leadership becomes inherently male or like inherently masculine? Like, why is that the story we tell? What is the benefit of leadership being directed to only talking about men or male-like attributes?
I mean, it goes back to it just goes back to the narrative and what we as a society see as being able to as foundationally strong or sturdy, right? What can you build with? What have you been told is the alpha and the omega, right? And you talk about genetic history, like what happens, what gets passed down. And I feel like for us, what we know as God, what we know as our creator, what we know as the law, it's all relative. It relates back to the masculine. So I think when you talk about, for us as Black people, what we've seen, and even going back to our last president, Barack, you think about the qualities that you have to embody. As for me, I look at it as a Black man. I just think about what I have to do and the characteristics that I have to exude to be accepted in spaces of leadership. Right? It's kind of like the inverse. Like you said, these women had to off the top show them break down those barriers and say that, okay, women are known, y'all white women, the women that y'all know can't do this because they're women. But get what? As a Black woman, I can't, right? So I'm going to show you, then I'm going to show up, then I'm also going to do the work. So in that way, how do we as Black people know how to break down these walls and break down these barriers and say, yeah, guess what? We can do it. So I look at as men, inversely, that feminine aspect of Martin Luther King having access to the spaces that he had, and it inherently being feminine, right? Inherently having to disarm by saying, hey, I'm not an animal. I'm not a monster. I'm not a rapist. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a savage. Like, I have the ability to sit down with you and have disagreement, right? So to know that, I think really what it is just, are we able to redefine what we have been told? Like, it's everything that we know God. I refer to God as He. It's just what we know, right? So if your creator, if the supreme is masculine, and everything we
and that don't even make sense.
No, that's what I'm saying. If the supreme is
masculine,
and that's all that we know, then it's like, shit, what you expect?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? What you expect? Like, honestly, I can try to intellectualize the shit, but like, what the hell do you expect? You know what I mean? Like, for us to see anything other than power as being a man, if that's all we've ever seen, if that's all we've ever known, right? As far as from the front, from the story, like the story that's told, right? This is what you got to do to be respected, your life to matter, right? Because these Black women can do all these amazing things, but who out for all the amazing works, do their lives matter at the end of the day, right? We're talking about, like, what does it look like? What is the legacy that you're leaving? So to leave a legacy, do you have to be inherently masculine? Well, shit, you might have to take something, right? Like Crystal said, that overt power, right? You got to be in motion. So it's like, at what point? Yeah, so it's like, at what point, you know what I mean, do we realize that for us, yeah, power has to look a little different. It's going to have to look different.
And it goes back to what you were saying about that narrative, right? So it's about having to learn how to rewire our brains, because the narratives that we've been told about Black men or men being the leaders is the man is the head of the household, the man is the head of the family, you know what I mean? And so once you keep on hearing it, this is what you've been trained to hear. Like you said, God is a man, you know what I mean? All the leaders, religiously speaking, are men. Everything is just man power, man centered. Yeah. So when you have that thought, then you're saying, well, it forces now the man to be the focal movement per se, right? So now he has to be the forefront, because this is the obligation that society has put on him. He's saying, I want to be in the forefront. She might be better, but as a man, this is what I'm supposed to be, because this is how y'all expect to see me.
Facts.
Absolutely. So Crystal, what does that feel like from an energy standpoint when we talked about, you know, a woman having to show signs of a masculine demeanor in order to get any kind of, you know, in order to get respected on any kind of level?
It's almost like, in my opinion, I would say, I'm trying to choose my words, right? I don't know if I feel like it's a lose-lose situation, because you're losing because you're having to assume the role that maybe you may not be, right? So you might want to be something else, but you know that in order to get heard, in order for you to be seen, you got to come with more force. You got to come with, you know what I mean, more. So in that sense, you're losing your self-identity. And at the same time, it's unfortunate because no matter how much masculinity you come with, you still won't be respected. And that's one of the things that that's why I particularly mentioned Cardi B, because I watch her try to have a voice. I watch her try to stand up for so much stuff, and she gets washed away every time because of what she does, what she looks like, how she presents herself. And it's like, well, if you listen to what she's saying makes a lot of sense, but it never gets respected. You know what I mean? And so I think about, like you said, like women with the masculine features. I think about when Michelle Obama, I don't know if y'all watched her becoming on Netflix, but she talked about her struggles and how I know one of the things that I began to hear, the more she began to step more into herself as her role individually, more people, you know what I mean, began to criticize her body features, right? Oh, her arms are too muscular, you know, and you know, oh, she's wearing sleeveless because her arm, you know what I mean? And those are all, so it's just like, you got to tone yourself down, although this is who you are, but you got to, it's like as a woman, you got to figure out how to maneuver just to be heard.
Yeah.
And I'm being clear on that. Just to be heard is not even just to be respected, because you can still be heard and still not even be respected.
Yeah. And you know what, to add to that, I think, and it's crazy, I think the people that are taking those risks the most are Black women. And because in those professional spaces, is realizing that by being something, like by being this person, by bringing certain attributes, qualities to the table, by having to operate in a certain way, you risk being kicked out the door, right? You risk being, all right, we don't see you as safe. We don't see you as someone we can trust. We don't see you as someone we can work with. Now you are the angry Black woman who now is blackballed, who now is chastised and cast aside, right? So for every 10 women, Black women who take those chances daily, the entrepreneurs, the ones who didn't necessarily choose the life that they live, but they've had to find it through fire, right? Trial by fire. I challenge Black men who are in the same professional spaces who struggle with how do you show up as your whole self, right? Without having to relegate your masculinity, your upbringing, your Black assness, you know what I'm saying? And to your job, to your profession, because it's those risks, it's those acts of overt energy, overt power for us that balance it for our sisters to say, okay, well, if maybe we're not the ones taking all the risk here, we're not the ones being vulnerable here by having to be masculine. Maybe I can embrace my feminine and be more vulnerable, be more transparent, be more empathetic, actually sit with like the fact that I don't have it all together, but I'm damn good at what I do. Right? Like as a man, but still be on the surface cis heteronormative, like at the end of the day, right? So us understanding what that looks like and how it really balances the conversation when we're talking about like this work, because Black women are on the front lines, but in the professional spaces, in this space, who's doing the work? Still Black women. So from a proximity standpoint, it's more Black men that, we can talk to each other in this space. So let's challenge each other to start embracing more of that feminine. So maybe it can look like the whole picture. Like we actually have a whole pot we cooking with.
Yeah, when you say the whole picture, I think one thing both of y'all are kind of talking about is like imagery, right?
Yep.
So like I posted, I think earlier about B. Symone saying, she can't date a man who works a 9 to 5, right? Well, all she said was, I can't date a man that works a 9 to 5 because he, I'm an entrepreneur. He won't understand, me having to work at 3 a.m. blah 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 blah. And what I'm saying is that, first of all, it's probably based on a personal dating history. She's probably fucked with niggas who work 9 to 5, and the goddamn common theme is they always, stressing about, whatever. Now, is that every nigga that works a 9 to 5? No, absolutely not. Like me personally, I work a 9 to 5. I wouldn't give a shit just as long as you don't wake me up. But I've never dated B. Symone.
Right.
So, but she has her prerogative to say, like, this is what works, this what doesn't work, this is what I'm looking for. The reason why, my opinion, is that she got so much backlash for it is because of her aesthetics. She's loud, she hood, she,
it's like the gall, right? The nerd.
Yeah, she goofy, she's got that city girl, aura about her. Because had it been a Michelle Obama that said, you know what, I got Barack because I only look for niggas with Ivy League degrees. And I only look for niggas, maybe, girl, don't settle. But like for real. So if it was Gabrielle Union, if it was, Tracy Ellis Ross, if it was, like all these people who are quote unquote elegant, and I'm not taking away from them, but if that came out of somebody else's mouth of somebody needs to be compatible with the lifestyle I live, and that's what works for us, then they would be like, yeah, girl, I get that. But because B. Symone is selling weave or makeup, whatever fucking it is she be doing, now it's she tripping. How dare her speak about, anybody, even though she's not speaking down on anybody, she's just speaking about what works for her. But it's like, if you're this, your titties out, you're selling weave, you're loud, you're hood, whatever fuck, you need to be grateful that any nigga, on earth is looking at you, right? But, and to tie that back into the subject matter is when you're talking about the assistance the roles that Black women played. You know, we can talk about Harriet Tubman, we can talk about Sojourner Truth, we can talk about Angela Davis, we can talk about Fannie Lou Hamer, and, you know, salute and respect, all of that. But we don't talk about, in the Mississippi Delta, Black sex workers sleeping with white policemen to find out information on whose house was getting bombed, who needs to get out of town, who's about to get lynched, you know, when the state troopers, like that's all a real thing. Like Black sex workers were sleeping with white politicians, white policemen, going back and telling civil rights, you know, headquarters, this is what they got going, this is what they got planning, this is got, you know, so they're giving, you know, their body, but they're using their profession in a way to advance the cause. You know, there's no telling how many lives a Black prostitute in Mississippi saved. Keep it a buck. So, but they'll never get the same kind of reverence as an Angela Davis, as a Fannie Lou Hamer, because they don't look the part. They don't look the part physically. They don't look the part morally. They don't look the part from a what we value aspect. But, you know, the women in the field, period, look all kinds of different ways, right? So, you know, we keep this image of women have to be the backbone and be constrained and be constricted. And then we have this image of men need to be ready to go to war. But, you know, and I've always said this, there's no war to be had. We don't need to raise an army. Like, if you're talking about war, you're speaking about it in truly the metaphorical sense. There is no, we're not going to raise an army. We're not going to war. We can't fight a war against the United States government. They spend $1 trillion on their military budget. You got a couple of niggas with some 45s. Like, that shit ain't gonna work. So what works, what we have seen work throughout the history of our movements, have been operational organization. You know, being organized, being strategic, being community minded, having resources brought or developed or maintained within our community, right? You're talking about the Black Panther Party. The reason why the Black Panther Party was so inundated with the community was shit like the free breakfast program. The reason why in the SELC they got people to register to vote was they would drop off food, groceries, clothes to those sharecroppers. So again, nobody got up and said, yeah, we're gonna follow you out of jail just on principle. Nobody got up and said, yeah, you know, the shit y'all talking, I'm with it, and I'm willing to risk it all for it. It took systemic investment in operation and execution and resources in order to get that done, right? And if you look at that, whenever you get to talking about the groceries and the food and the clothes and this, like anybody from Martin Luther King to Huey Newton will credit women for handling that. Why? Because it seemed like household work. It's fucking domestic work. So yeah, we'll give y'all credit for handling out the groceries. We'll give y'all credit for, you know, feeding the kids during. That's really the structure and the pull in to how we even got the advancements we have. Right? It wasn't the speeches. It wasn't somebody at a podium. It wasn't, you know, niggas outside a courthouse. It was literally having the community come together for the betterment of the community, which is admittedly on the shoulders of Black women. So I shift that to Crystal and say, you know, how does that feel? Like we've had 250 years of organizational structure and empowerment on the shoulders of Black women, but y'all don't get the credit for it. What kind of feeling is that for y'all?
It feels normal.
Normal. I wasn't expecting that, but damn, that's deep.
And the reason why I say normal is because this is what it's always been. You know what I mean? So it's nothing that feels strange. Like, this is what we're used to. I think about like being in school, and typically the way the narrative is set up in class anyway is whatever is the guy cheats off the girl's paper. You know what I mean? Like that's how it goes. So we're always used to helping out on the back end, being a tutor, being whatever, as long as y'all look good in the limelight, in the forefront. So it's just, that's the normal. That's the normality.
I think something you had touched on a little bit, Mike, and kind of going back to what you just said, Crystal, like the relatability to a Cardi B or to a B Symone for our generation, I think it forces us to we don't respect it. Like we don't respect the people, the tangible heroes, right? So we idolize the Black Panther Party, but as you said, the heroes and the people that we're idolizing were us. Like they're the nameless ones, the people that like just showed up every day and did their fucking job and created this thing that we now know actually worked. So the fact that too, then that relatability now it bursts some responsibility. So now because you know that your heroes really legit, a lot of them that you don't know them, they were nameless. What does that look like for you now to actually step up and say, okay, well, this is some of the stuff that I got to do day in and day out. So that means how do I put my ego aside to work with my neighbor? Right. How do I go across the street and have that conversation with that brother or that sister that like I ain't spoke to since they moved in? You know what I'm saying? Like in real life, we talk about the community. Do we know our neighbors? Do we have those conversations? Because like Crystal said, we realize that a Black woman's love for her family, for her community will always be at the top of what she's like sees as her being her best self, right? So we can actually understand that and like really understand that, okay, now it's our responsibility like to know that that's never changing. That's unwavering. Like, so that's a foundational thing.
Now, as Crystal said, normal. Now, collectively, you know, and that, you know, that's a sobering answer. What do you think that does from a communal standpoint for Black women? That's the narrative that y'all are always subservient to, and that, you know, or should you start stepping up and demanding that spotlight? Does that help? Is that a goal? Should that be a goal? So I kind of asked you 3 questions.
So, you know, on one of the other lives that we spoke on, my stance has always been that I feel like Black women are always at the bottom of the totem pole, right? So you think at the bottom, you think about the bottom of the barrel, the least, you know what I'm saying, of everything, whatever. So from an overall standpoint, it hinders the growth of our esteem, right? So it's almost like we can have high self-esteem, but it can only go so high because ultimately our top is still the bottom of the barrel. You see what I'm saying? Right. And so as a whole, as far as like, how do we get out of this thing? I feel like we have to change the narrative first within our own community, right? So growing up, as young girls, little girls, we're taught, you know, back talk, right? And then as you grow up as a woman, you're taught, don't say nothing to a man because he'll leave you because no man wants to hear a woman nag. So we're constantly being muted. We're constantly shown that we can have the strength to fight as long as it's not a threat to the man's ego. So I feel like the men have to find some security within themselves to say, you having a voice is not a threat to me. I encourage space for you to have this voice. I support you. And it's like, and at this point, I don't even want a man to have my back. I need him to be on the side of me. I need him to be there like this. You know what I'm saying? So that presence is set where now I feel your presence, they feel your presence, and it's now giving me the option and the confidence now to feel like it's okay for me to have this voice, because we're so often taught that having a voice is a threat to everybody. Having a voice is something that you're not supposed to do. So we're always taught to be passive, to do the underground work, you know what I'm saying? And it's okay if somebody else, if the man has the light.
Absolutely. And I think you said something very poignant about being a man being on the side of you, not behind you, not in front of you, just being like on the side of and support. And I think we've lacked that. I think men in their quest to be the leader, and leadership just means in this regard being at the front, that once you're at the front, you're usually the only person up there. And that our goal has been to the front, to be the only person up there. And in that, we've left a lot of people, most notably and largely Black women, right? So within that, you know, if we're going back to history, just to kind of tie it back to, you know, free roots type shit, when you're talking about the Black Panther Party, when you're talking about civil rights movement, you're also talking about the second wave of feminism. And what will be the seedlings to womanism. And womanism is the Black version of feminism, more clearly defined, essentially, right? And that's where I think the war on the Black woman, who she belongs to, starts. Does she belong to white women, or does she belong to the Black man, right? Now, mind you, when I say that, I mean it when I say who does she belong to, because neither side understood that Black women bounce back and forth because they don't feel at home or valued by either. So and so that actually pushed womanism. Like, you know what? We're gonna take some of this Black shit, we're gonna take some of this woman shit, and we're gonna create our own shit, because neither side is valuing what the fuck it is we bringing to the table besides body count. You know what I'm saying? Besides strength and the motherfucking numbers, right? But we can't talk, we can't say, we can't develop, we can't do anything. We get told what to do, where to be, right?
Yeah.
So you get the second wave of feminism. And that involves things that are directly related to when Black men talk about that shit, things were directly related to Black women. It was about birth control, contraceptives, it was about abortion, all that kind of shit. So, and that's all stuff that Black women inherently need access to. All women inherently need access to, but in particular Black women, of course. Yeah. When you're talking about, a safe way to have sex, you're talking about choosing, do you want the child or not? In a country where you having the child can damn you and the child, you know what I'm saying? Like, depending on what situation you actually in. So, but because they turn their attention, they being Black women, to the gaze of stuff that has stuff to do with them, and then secondarily has stuff to do with the community, Black men berated women, Black women, for being under white women, right? So that's kind of the first divide. That's kind of the first divide of that, which is my bad, which is an interesting aspect, because it really does kind of prove to you that the goal of having Black women around Black men is strictly to have Black women support Black men and not to empower themselves, which is wild. So men being the focal point of the actual movement, to go back to food, I personally, you can agree or disagree, I personally feel like as we develop what freedom looks like for us, we did it under the blueprint of what it looks like for white men.
Yep.
And white men have built a country where they are the focal point of everyday life, both micro and macro.
Yep.
And that we developed our potion based on that.
Yeah.
And that we don't want to be free. We just want our turn to run the plantation.
Yep. And I think, it's interesting hearing, Crystal just talk about like the relationship dynamics, even our love stories, right? Like the way we were taught love and the context in which we know love from man to woman is literally simply the story told from a white man's perspective. And to know that it involves this process of courting and all these, just emotionally led, emotionally driven measures and attempts and efforts to maintain something. And when you get it, now it's just yours and you don't have to do nothing to keep it. It's just your price. It's now yours, your property, right? So it's the idea that, like, yeah, there is an end to love, right? It's the idea that there is this final destination to love, intimate love from man to woman. And it's not this continual process of edification. It's not this continual accountability process. It's not this continual, like us actually holding each other accountable and actually stepping to the line together. And so I think it's interesting now for a lot of individuals that don't want to kind of break away from what we've known. I ask them, well, the Black men if we're gonna be fighting to be in the front, what are we putting out front? Right? Like what are the narratives and what are the stories that we're telling around what it looks like to lead? And I think us having to be now the beacon of healing and what it looks like to be nurturers for our women and for our women who are on the front line every day, right? So how do we now take some of that power back and say, okay, well, shit, y'all out here. So now I realize it's less about my ability to control and more about my role in the ecosystem and my ability to keep some shit together, right? Because now your collective power is in motion, Black women, like you collectively going, right? So how can I step on side of you? How can I show up with you and be by your side while this fight is happening? It may look a whole lot like doing some of the shit you've been doing all this time, having to be quiet, having to lead from the back, having to be a support system, having to do a lot more of the administrative work, right? So it may look like you having to have some of that ego death and putting some of that to the side to know that, okay, yeah, we can tell the story and the narrative, but I want you to tell the entire story. Like, this is what my work looks like. It looks like me keeping shit together, right? Because she's actually the better strategist. She actually knows how to move shit across the board. And in this space, in the home, I know how to do it. So I'm a beast when it comes to getting shit together with the kids. I'm a beast when it comes to curriculum, education. I'm a beast when it comes to understanding how to actually teach emotional intelligence and what that looks like and how it manifests into our kids knowing how to engage with each other, right? So I think tangibly, that's some of the shit that for me is interesting. Like, how are we actively choosing to recreate the past? Or are we actively choosing to say, okay, this is the story and the narrative that we're going to move forward with? Like, and that's what I think it is. It's like, what do our love stories look like? They look a whole lot like partnership and friendship to me than this, this Disney shit. A whole lot like us actually like holding each other accountable and still coming to the table and saying I love you at the end of the day. Like, us going to bed, like going to sleep together. Like, we still good. You know what I'm saying? We can fight, we can argue, we can do that because we do it well. You know what I'm saying? But I want to do it to build, not to destroy. And I think that's where we find our biggest issue in the diaspora, is the fact that in the micro and day-to-day showing up with clients, it's our inability to be able to hold that anger and not throw each other away because of it. Like, we hurt each other so much to the point of that's the pain. We can't use none of that pain for good. It's just like, you know what, it hurts too bad. We run for peace because the pain hurts too bad. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I just rather not deal with it because like I can't, it just hurts. So at what point do we realize like, yeah, we got to get to a place to where we can confront some of that shit? It's the shadow work. Like, and I feel like Black women collectively have been like the shadow of this country and have held everything together. Like, we speak to the shadows, the sex workers, the women who literally lay their bodies on the line, literally in every way, every aspect, right? So how do we sit with our own shadow work and realize like we have to go into the closets and realize that a lot of the destruction that's happening is because we don't have the capacity to sit in front of the one we love and be like, damn, I fucked up. Damn, I gotta tighten up. Damn, I need to do this. Damn, it hurts, but I'm gonna just show up because you're gonna show it up for me, right? I'm gonna just show up. I'm messed up. I'm not gonna run, but I'm gonna show up, right? However I can. And that's that process where can we hold each other while we're hurting collectively in this moment to realize how we can best show up. You may not need to be on the front line, bro. You may actually need to sit down and take this time to heal because you will be called to move again. Like, trust me, I think that's the thing. If we're realizing, if we have the time right now to collectively sit the hell down and have this conversation, then let's do it. So now we can actually reserve and fill our tanks back up to now know that, hey, when it's our time to really move collectively, because we actually like each other and we can talk and my favorite motto is fuck you, I love you. Like, I can tell you that. Like, I can tell you, bro, like, you fucking up, but I love you. Like, let's do something with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or I messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, atonement. So I think that's that piece. How do we love each other at war? Like, in the midst of war. Like, how do we do it? That's the energy. We all like, we catching shit just to, you know what I'm saying, just to heat with comment sessions going dumb just because all this energy, right? Yeah, it's there. Sit with it. Like, what were the healing circles, the safe spaces? Get back to some of these village practices. I think going into, like you said, Mike, what is it going to look like for us? Are we going to take the blueprint of what we know? Or are we going to take some of the, the village aspects, the practices of our ancestors that actually worked and decide what we want our community of the future to look like? That includes the members of our community that we don't all on the surface fuck with, specifically our LGBTQIA community, right? Right. The ones that don't like the least of these, right? If you want to say it that way. how do we hold safe spaces for all of us? How do we create spaces where we can have dialogue across our own barriers, right? And I think that's the hard part.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to talk to, like, at 16, I didn't want to talk to at the time what I felt was a faggot. And you know what I'm saying? In real life, excuse my language, but I just need to say that. Like, because that's the language that we use, because that's the language we've been given to now a brother, or a black man, somebody that could come from the same family line as you, same bloodline as you, and it justify death, justify whatever you've been told is an abomination, whatever you've been told is all things against what it means to be a black man, but we don't even know what that looks like, right? So I speak that to say, like, there's so much love shown between brother, like from brother to brother, but a lot of that love is done in the shadows too.
Yeah.
A lot of that love is done, you know what I'm saying, in the closet too. And that intimacy, we just relegated to sex, but a lot of it is, where can we hold each other when we're hurting? Who does the holding? A lot of the communities that we don't fuck with do the holding. The sex workers, literally, like the individuals that we like think that we throw them away. That's who's doing a lot of the bandaging and the repair. You know what I'm saying? So where we can show up. So I think that's the narrative that we have to understand. Like, no, and there in no way can we harm the individuals that really keep us together.
Oh, shit, what a motherfucking collection plate?
Man, watch out.
Yeah, man. Come on in the room. I don't want you to give. God wants you to give.
Look, set it up.
Yeah, damn.
But no, I think it's there has to be a certain level of like we talk about, man, enthusiasm, right? That you speak about this shit, right? For niggas to understand how serious it is, because the work, especially like Chris, understanding the work that we do with people is really like it's the hard work, but it's the work that lives life and death. Mm-hmm. We take I've dealt with suicide. We take our secrets to the grave, literally.
So let's talk about that from a communal aspect, right? Yeah. So when we talk about, you know, the role women play, even kind of moving forward in the movements we've had from a contemporary standpoint, you know, the faces that get put out there, for the most part, not everybody, but for the most part, are you know, Michael Brown's mother, Eric Garner's wife, daughter, Trayvon Martin's mother, you know, those kind of folks. So when we talk about that trauma, when we talk about, you know, that pain, it seems like despite and those are very real factors and very real people within the movement. So, you know, so this isn't to take away from what they bring to it. But again, there are other women in the movement who don't have personal tragedy within the movement, right? But we don't talk about them. We don't bring them to the front, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems like the role for Black women now, even when you look at the signs, when you're protesting, the signs are talking about, is my son next? My husband matters. You know, my boyfriend matters. You know, I don't want my baby to be the next victim. Is my baby gonna be blah? You know, so, and again, all very real feelings, very real, tangible feelings. So I'm not belittling that. What I'm saying is that I think the theme that has pushed onto us to even get to the point where that's what you write on your sign is that Black women can only be involved if it's based in grief. Mm-hmm. And that Black women, when it's based in grief, that's when they get the voice. That's when they get put to the front. That's when they get to be the example, right? But for me, I think the aspect of grief ties Black women back to, or change Black women back to the role, the singular role of being a nurturer, right? Because when you're talking about that kind of grief, we're not talking about communal grief, we're talking about personal grief. So, you know, my baby, my son, my boy, my husband, you know, whatever, what have you. So now Black women can only step forward if they come from the lane of being a nurturer. Yeah. Whereas, you know, we've got Black women who don't have kids, who don't have a husband, you know, who didn't have a father, but are an asset or valuable, and who feel communal pain. and feel communal solidarity with, you know, this overall struggle. So, you know, to kick it back to you, Crystal, how do you feel about that? Like that the only way Black women can get to the front is to be in a state of hyper emotion, and that emotion centered around somebody else, not centered around themselves. It's never am I next. It's because we don't see those signs when it came to Sandra Bland or like Breonna Taylor. Like it's there aren't Black men saying, "Is my wife next? Is my daughter next?"
It's my daughter
like,
next.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not that. You know, those signs are only put out there by Black women in protest with Black men. So this is kicking to you.
It's almost like delusional in a way, right? Like delusional being the Black men are so heightened as the only priority, the only important. You know, and let's go back to when you hear people say, well, I want to have a son because I want him to carry on my legacy. I want him to carry on my name. Instead of realizing like you can't do it without the Black woman. You know what I mean? And so therefore the man is the one that's uplifted because in our minds, in society's communal mind, the man is the one that's going to keep going. But it's delusional because it's like he cannot keep going.
Literally can't.
The woman, you know what I mean? And she's the one that builds everything, you know what I mean? And it kind of goes back to how we look at Mother Nature, where it's like, oh, we want the world to continue, but we keep on disrespecting Mother Nature. So it's the same parallel sense, and just the thought of, I don't know, it's a delusional way of thinking. You know what I mean? When I think about the cases, when I've seen those signs, and I feel bad because I feel like, does all these people only have sons? You know what I mean? Like, how does it feel like if your daughter sees this? You know what I mean? Because it doesn't make your daughter less threatened. You know what I mean? And we go back to the Sandra Bland where we're saying like it can still happen. It can still happen. But it's almost like where you said we block it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know.
And it's almost like in this space, Crystal, can we check ourselves and the narratives that we're even telling ourselves and our own children, our own families about what's important to us, right? Like how we all know that in some families, like the boys definitely got treated a little differently than the girls. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The boys get away with a little more fuck shit than the girls, right? Yeah. So you think about like what that really preaches to this next generation about, okay, how do we fight? When do we fight? What fights are important? What fights do we go all out for? Because you see the companies up the first name, of course, like it's Ashe, like to the ancestor, is George Floyd. But the reality of it is his life is not any more valuable than Taylor's or vice versa. There is not you know what I'm saying? It's not no like, but it's all this emotion. It's like, again, it's the alchemy of emotions, right? When you're able to actually drive something home that says, hey, this and this show, like this Black life, this Black man, like it just goes back to the narrative of this country, right? If we can incite some type of, or really we can create some type of narrative that speaks to this power, that dynamic. Like we can create something that speaks to like how we are able to control things, and we can get an emotional response that really kind of shows us where these folks at, where they at with it, right? So we kind of collectively see a little difference, a little change, right? But it goes back to, like you said, Mike, the fact that for women to be able to be in leadership, now they have to be of value to a man, and vice versa. Why can't men be in leadership simply because of how they serve women, right? Simply because of how we like literally create spaces for women, create spaces for like the upliftment of women, because in life we know there's no life without the woman. Right. So how are we educating our women, our girls? How are we teaching them how to engage, how to mate, how to actually protect themselves, how to, you know what I mean? Like that is a real thing. And that's the piece to where, like, I think it goes back to where do we find our power, right? I want people, I intentionally, like, I'm transparent about crying because I need you to know that Black men cry, but we're okay after it. We're not fucked up. Like, we can cry, we can hurt. I'm tired of seeing Black women like having to always like take on that collective pain, like that collective, like that shit is heavy as fuck. Like that's not y'all weight to be taken. Like nigga, like so that's the thing to where at what point do we shift the narrative to be like, okay, shit, like what the daddies at? What the fathers at? What the ones that's crying at? Like I know y'all niggas is out here. Like what the ones that's not like what the ones that like, go ahead.
Yeah, because even when you're talking about daddies, fathers, daughters, you know, it's all in relation to protection, but in terms of ownership and property.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah. So and so we're not even I got a daughter, you got one too. Mm-hmm. We're not even having the conversations of I'm teaching my daughter how to get through life as an adult, as a responsible citizen, as somebody connected to the community. It's I'm protecting my daughter until another man comes and then he's protecting her.
Yeah, till I can do this shit. So I can hand off to another owner, another property owner.
And so I've taught her nothing besides how to stand behind a man. You stand behind me, and then you stand behind, you know, whatever nigga gonna marry you.
Yeah. And
so
even this, go ahead.
Like, how do we change that? Like one of the questions you asked was, how do we go back, right? How do we start teaching, you know what I'm saying, our young ones as they're growing up? Because I've seen some people try it now. Like I've seen them say like, okay, it's okay to let the little boy cry, but then you still have the vast majority who are saying little boys are not supposed to cry, right? You know what I mean? And we're in session, and you can see the man, his lips are quivering because he's trying his best to hold it together. And then as soon as I say let it out, on instant, you know what I mean? Because now he has that permission to feel like it's safe to have this emotion. But on the other hand, the woman sits there still because she has no idea how to console a Black crying man because this is so not our norm. So now, and I'm having to guide her through, hold him, rub his back, you know what I mean? Get him like, it's okay.
Yes.
You know, women are not taught to do that. So now this is a new entity that you're imposing because it's so different from us.
Yes.
And then I think the Black man, like you're having this controversy now of the more he tries to come into his sensitivity, he now has to face the backlash of are you gay? Because you're too soft, you're too sensitive, you know, and you know what I mean? And it's a whole
which is twofold, because one, you're insinuating that gay is bad.
Right.
And then one, and then two, like you said, you're not letting you're putting him into a lane he ain't even in.
Right. And you're saying you're putting him into this lane of natural emotion because when something was natural, you're now trying to categorize him when it doesn't even have to be a category, period.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I think in the context of relationships, that's something, like you said, that's some of the biggest challenges, right? Where and if we're collectively healing the masculine and understanding that we need to sit with sit with this collectively, are we creating, again, like you said, those safe spaces where we're also in turn re-educating, you know what I'm saying, shifting the narrative with our women as to what love looks like in a relationship to a whole man, not a good man, not a great man, not this idea of a man, but a whole man that is bringing his whole self to you and not having to goddamn spill the rest of it into the closets and fuck shit up.
Well, let me ask you this, fool.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. And this is kind of off the beaten topic, but right with it. I just got to get this issue off, right? Some shit been on my mind for like a couple weeks now, probably longer. Yeah. So if you look at the most times most niggas have cried, right? We got all this like negative backlash against it, except for on a court or on a field.
Ooh.
Like think about like your last game. Think about, you know, losing a state champ. Like think about that shit. Niggas boo fucking who? Like I'm a former athlete, you are too. Niggas be on the ground, killed over, in tears, on top of each other. I'll never forget my I didn't cry in college, but my last high school football game, dog, we started crying before the game was over. I think they scored, like niggas went up 10, it's 2 minutes left, we're not gonna catch them.
Yeah.
We was on the field crying, and nigga, we cried for 2 hours
Yeah, legit.
Riding back to St. Louis.
Legit.
So we cried for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, next to each other, hugging each other, holding each other, and like we could verbally express that not only were we crying because we lost, but that was the last time I was ever gonna play with my best friends. You go to college, and it becomes about business essentially. Like, you don't know, but in high school, you go to class with them, them your homeboy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's the last time I'm on a field with my best friends, right?
Yep.
And so you mourn that.
Yeah.
And that's acceptable. You come off the field, everybody hugging you, your daddy, your mama, your coach, your, you know what I'm saying, your principal, everybody hugging you, everybody letting you cry. The minute you take them motherfucking pads off, or take that jersey off, or take them cleats off, and get into the real world, and some real shit hit you, because we talking about a game. Yeah, Allen Iverson, we're talking about practice. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, in the grand scheme of things, we're talking about bullshit. Like for real. We're talking about an extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
But when you get hit with, nigga, divorce, your child got a disability, you flunked out of school, you know what I'm saying? You've been fired and you ain't see it coming. Like all this shit deeply impacts you.
Yep.
People look at you crazy when you cry.
Yeah,
exactly.
Before you answer that, Fu, I want to add another layer on. So, along with sports being the safe place for men to show their emotion, I also feel like it's one of the only places that men can show their pain. So when you see guys getting hurt on the court, I mean, y'all waddling, you know what I mean? Pain, you know what I mean?
Hurt.
But if you get hurt cutting the grass, it's like you got to hold it in. You know, like how Michael said, like you cut the uniform off, it's a different world. You can't hurt nowhere else. You can't feel pain nowhere else. If you nailing something in and you hit your thumb, you better not say ouch. You better shake it off and keep going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if you jam your finger playing a sport, is understandable. So I want to add that on to the level of emotion and pain.
Ooh, that's heavy. So I feel, and it's like everything I'm seeing is I'm visualizing it, is realizing that this is all symbolic of what we've been told about what it constitutes to be a black man. To be a black man in this country constitutes you being the buck. That is the ideal. You being able to endure physically, you being able to do shit, you being able to take whatever, you being able to withstand, right? That is what constitutes your pain, right? That is what constitutes me respecting your pain. So like you said, Mike, when you are on a gladiator field, gladiators are given permission to do things that other normal civilians can't do. So even in society now, when we look at like the people like the LeBrons and the NFL stars, you know what I'm saying, like the ABs of the world, and we look at like how this nigga acting out. I'm talking about AB, Antonio Brown, acting crate plumb stupid. But guess what? He is a gladiator. He is a warrior. He will be given the ability in this society to get back out there and do it again. Why? Because the cost and the price of his ability to perform and do and be and show that this is what you aspire to, black man. This is what power and strength looks like in today's society. This is where you can be your whole self. So while people shun why we want to be rappers and actors and athletes, nah, it ain't necessarily for the money. It's because you can bring your entire person into this thing that is sustaining your family and yourself. You can fuck up, you can make mistakes, you can not be perfect, you can be a nigga. I'm gonna go off on my future shit real quick. Why everybody hate my nigga Future is because everybody loves a Future in their life. I'ma say that shit, man. Like, niggas hate Future because you know Future. You love Future. You probably fucking a Future right now. And it's something in that nigga. There's some potential in that nigga that you see somewhere, right? That speaks to how he can be better than who he is, right? But the fact that there are archetypes in the men, when we think about, bro, there's a whole kingdom sitting behind jail walls right now. There's a whole kingdom literally of black men, black people, period, sitting in prison walls right now. So when you think about that archetype of that warrior, that street nigga, the hustler, the go-getter, like we all understand it. Rappers want to be athletes want to be hustlers, like because it's that energy, it's that frontline energy. Because I know right here, if somebody die, I'ma cry. I can cry. I have to cry. That's my brother in arms. Like we done did that, right? So tempered aggression, Mike, going back to what you said, right? where do black men find intimacy? Where do we learn it in adolescence, growing up, right? In pubescence, when we're understanding our sexuality, in those trying times. I love Midnight, the movie, because it spoke to an aspect that we don't understand. A lot of us learned who we were with our partners. Like, a lot of us engaged in all type of shit with our partners. Like, let's be honest, I'm from the South Side, bro. We, like, all the fuck shit we did was simply because of the environment that nurtured it. Like, we had, like, our environment taught us what this looked like, right? So I can be my whole self with my brother. We can learn about who we are, about our body parts, about how we like to talk to girls, what type of girls do we want to talk to, what does it feel like, what does it look like? But now, as it manifests into you becoming a man, now your sexuality has to be static. It's either black or white. You're either this man or you're that man. Where when you realize you were your most vulnerable and transparent, was probably around that time where you had a relationship with somebody that looked like you, that affirmed that you weren't crazy, that the shit that you were going through or feeling wasn't just yours. Yeah. It was ours collectively. Because on the field, you know you're gonna tell your bro, like, bro, this nigga big as hell, bro. But I gotta run through this nigga, man. I gotta go through it, bro. It's gonna hurt, but I gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that vulnerability piece, like, bro, I can't, like, I need help, bro. Like, I need y'all to tighten up, bro. Like, it's that I'm gonna come at you, like, even while I love aspects of the fraternity, we can take the meat and leave the bone. I don't even understand why me and Mike got cool, bro. We got cool because we had conflict. Yeah. Like, it literally within it was structured conflict.
Structured conflict.
But at the end of the day, it was conflict. But we understand the rules to this conflict, like the game, right? That we have to break down certain things in order to understand what actually brings us together on this field of battle. So it goes back to, like you were saying, at what
had we not mirrored each other, we wouldn't be cool.
Thank you. I had to see him for all of who he was. Not the, you know what I'm saying? Not this cute shit, not none of that, bro. I really had to sit with this man, like this, you know what I mean? This big light skin, blue eye, who this nigga is, man? Like, bro, this St. Louis, like, so I'm feeling this energy, right? In that space. But when I say that is exactly what we know actually creates this. There are so many of us that have trauma around us actually having that conflict where, a lot of us were bullied. A lot of us were sensitive growing up. We didn't have the framework to necessarily understand what conflict looked like healthy and how to take it and turn it into something good. So I think it's so important for someone like myself, someone like Mike, to speak up for our LGBTQ community is because a lot of our brothers literally were forced and pushed into that space by us not allowing us the time or the space to really understand who we are. We 31, we grown-ups having kids, having babies, trying to now teach, but we haven't taken enough time to learn and be students. Like, it's the end game, baby. You don't even know what you like sexually. You just know you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to catch this nut, and they're supposed to, like, no. Let's go back and like, some of us, we got to realize we're grown kids in a lot of ways. Grown kids, and I think that's that piece to where, you know, with what we talking about, like, for Black men, it's just the vulnerability piece, right? Like, our biggest men, like, I love how, you know, we had these conversations, but we have to start affirming the ones that we want to throw away. That's the shit that pisses me off the most. Like, no, you won't throw him away because you're not gonna throw you're not gonna throw my trans brother away. You're not gonna throw my trans sister away. I'm no, nigga, no. But you ain't gonna throw my niggas away either. Because I got partners that's behind bars now that y'all, like, it's the worst of the worst of the worst. But you're not gonna throw them away neither. I'll cry for them. You don't have to cry for them. I'll cry for them. Right? That's the work we gotta tell Black women. Now, I'll cry for my brothers too and do the work for them too. But we gotta establish that trust amongst each other to where that is actually how the code of conduct, where we get back to respecting each other regardless of class, because that's the other shit, the isms. Like, how do we kind of redo the isms so we can build instead of destroy?
Yeah, and I want to pick up on something that you said as well, which is, like, a lot of times when you're growing up, you don't know what it is that you actually like. You just know what you're supposed to like. And I think that's how the whole behavior of being homophobic grows, right? Because you're afraid to allow your inner true self to explore. So if you allow yourself to be open to just having a friendship, to just talking to somebody, then you're afraid that might shake up your world. You know what I mean? So now, because the world shaking up because this is what you've always been taught. You're supposed to be what you're supposed to like. Now you become phobic of this. You know what I mean? You're because of what it might expose within your internal self.
Exactly. And we weren't taught as boys, you know, what intimacy looks like amongst brothers without sexuality being in place. And I said a lot of trauma and a lot of the things that happened to us early on confuse us as to what it looks like. I can absolutely hug my brother. I can absolutely say, bro, I love you, bro, and not be in a romantic way and not be in a sexualized way. But if that's not something that you've ever seen us say, if that's not something that's ever been encouraged, that's not something that's been modeled, then that's not something that you know is real. And it's grown ass men out here who are leaders and who are respected people in the world and in society that have this deep rooted conditioning in the trauma that speaks to what it looks like to overcome and become this result of your pain versus saying that, nah, I actually created just a product of what was given to me, the fuck shit that was given to me. I didn't take it. Yeah.
And because they don't have it, they brush it off as weakness because you got to find a way to dismiss what you don't have.
What you don't know.
Yeah, but then that shows up a lot of times in women. And so thus we have these leaders, these men who run the world, who now will tell you women are weak and unfit to lead and unfit to serve because they have something in them that man is currently unable to obtain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's how we get right back to where the fuck we be
at. Exactly. Because I think in Black women ain't got to show me shit. Y'all can do all things through anything that strengthens you. I don't give a fuck. like nigga, y'all ain't got to say shit else. I've seen God in Black women. I know God through Black women. I've seen the Creator embodied in Black women. What I know for a fool is I want to see that shit in myself. And myself being the collective, right? So if I look at the best of us and the least of us, I know there's a commonality amongst the masculine that speaks to us really sitting down and healing some shit before we say who we are. Like, speak to the energy, not to what you see. Speak to what we like, how we move collectively, not to the shell, right? And so for every man, especially when we talk about spiritual leaders, and I think this conversation a lot of times in different sects of the diaspora gets into just our foundation and framework for how we see life and how it's being written. But I think from a spiritual standpoint, like if you understand that, it's really a collective energy. It's a collective tone. It's a collective voice. What can we agree on that speaks to us staying alive and doing the work and not having to find our power in death or pain or shit that, you know what I'm saying? Like, God damn, do I gotta hurt all the time for me to have some validity in this land? Do I gotta be fucked up I gotta just be mad because regardless of if I do it this way or that way, I'm still not gonna get what's good for me, my whole self. I'm gonna get a shell of it, right? I'm gonna settle for it. And that's where a lot of our men too are beaten down because a lot of us have had to compromise our warrior spirit to stay alive. And you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of niggas want to do a lot of stuff, but we're afraid. And it's okay to say you're afraid, but you don't want to say that. You want to intellectualize it and be like, nah, y'all should do this. No, shut up. You just scared. It's okay. I'm scared too, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to just be like, I'm afraid. And that's something that we don't do enough of, like admitting that we don't always have the gumption to be on the front line because we don't know what to do. Like, we don't know how to appeal to an officer with a goddamn pistol in our face. Or, you know what I'm saying? That, like, I got real PTSD from 12. I done been in handcuffs too many times. Like, you know what I'm saying? Right now, like, and just knowing, like, whenever I see them, whenever they get behind me, nigga, I'm it's just that nigga kick in. It's not that, right? So it's understanding, like, how do we really meet the world that we live in and understand how to move in it. I know that with women, I'm much more powerful than by myself. I'm a fucking target by myself. With y'all, I'm a goddamn force. You know what I'm saying? Like, they ain't even seeing me, they feeling me. Like, they seeing y'all, they feeling me though. Like, that's that 1-2. Like, and I feel like that's really that 1-2 we got to start doing and knowing like how the energy moves. Like, shit, sometimes we gonna have to speak up. Sometimes I'm gonna have to be like, hey, baby, go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Do your thing. They see, they feel me. I'm here. You know what I mean? Like, and that's that piece collectively that I think it has to emanate and transmute into, you know, popular culture. You know what I mean? This shit got to be like our creatives, our entrepreneurs, all our visual artists. Like, we got to design and really ideate around what we want our world to look like, because that shit, it'll manifest. And I think that's really what we're called to do right now when we're in these spaces is whatever your pocket of the world looks like, it's a lot more people that want that same pocket. We just got to start sharing it more.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and then going back to like the men being the focal of the movement and how you're saying like, you know, you have to feel the man's energy. I feel like it's a dysfunctional cycle because when the man's presence is felt, he's now a threat. You know what I mean? So he's gotta step back, but if he steps back, then the woman speaks up, but then she's not respected, she's not heard. So it's like we're fighting this ongoing, and we're trying to figure out how do we do this when we're facing so many obstacles.
And it's asking, I think it's those having those tough conversations because I think where our privilege as Americans is realizing that we ain't had to deal with shit being in our front door. We ain't had to really sit with our wives or partners and really ask ourselves if this shit came to where we had to be outside in the streets. How do we move as a unit? What do we actually do? Like, it ain't shit ain't real till it's real, until yours get killed, until you don't want to have to really, like, you know what I'm saying, pull the trigger or do whatever you feel you say you're going to do on the internet. So that's what I said. Like, we're not having to have those conversations in some of our spaces of middle class privilege and comfort in white America. Well, yeah, we worked hard to get comfortable, but comfort creates a coward at times. Like, and if you're not having those uncomfortable conversations with your people, how the fuck you think we're gonna have it with these white folks?
Yeah.
Like, it don't work like that.
Right.
And because it's life and death, literally, are we asking ourselves, how do we move as a unit where this may actually be life and death? If I speak up, are we willing to, like, just real life? Like, just real life, like shit that we have to start realizing that these are the conversations that we have to prepare ourselves for in the house. So when we all come outside, it's like, all right, I know they on the same page as I am, and we are, because we just know what it's gonna come down to. Like, and so that's that piece to where I think that language, the language of, you know, actually getting that message out, I think Black men, it's our time to step up. Like, I sat down intentionally and learned from Black women because I realized, like, shit was over my head and I was out of my water. I was out of my league. Like, like years ago when I started this shit, like, I was like, nah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna speak out, and all my shit just started oozing out, all that fuck shit. Like, and I got called out by several women, Black women on the internet. Like, bro, I hear you, but shut your silly ass up. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it took me being well-intentioned and having to really, like, check myself, understand that no, sometimes this work just looks different. It looks like us really sitting with, how can we maintain our power when we're not having to, when we can't exert it the same way?
Right. And one of the things you also said was just learning how to have those difficult conversations with each other so that we can have them with the white people. I know during my dating, you know what I'm saying, span, I found myself looking a Black man in the face on a date and telling him, I want to be with a Black man. And that that messes his whole world up, right? Like, are you trying me right now? I want to be with a Black man. You know what I'm saying? The moment I see that you selling yourself out, that you being whitewashed, that's not the Black man I need to be with. You know what I'm saying? When I say I want to be with a Black man, it's a certain energy, it's a certain force, it's a certain presence, it's a certain voice that Black men have to have. You know what I mean? Because, and I get it, like, sometimes you got to be out here, you got to play the game, but I believe in playing the game without selling yourself out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you learn that by having these difficult conversations. You learn that by being in these different spaces and you seeing how this brother is moving, and you like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? And you know, I think the show Black AF got a lot of, I guess, bad reviews. Like, it took me a while to watch it because I heard a lot of people say something bad about it, whatever. But I ended up watching the other day, and one of the things I liked was his internal battle, or not even really internal battle, but he wanted to be so much, you know, of himself in this world, in his community. And I was just like, I like that. You know, I like the fact that he felt like, I want to wear my gold chains. I want to wear my you know what I mean? Because that was him being himself in his world and society of nothing but white people, especially at his level. You know what I mean? And so it's about knowing that even in this space with white people, I'm still all of my Blackness, and I'm not selling it out for nobody. I'm not selling it out for no dollar. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
Yeah. And it's hard because usually that narrative or that perspective comes when we've been fully immersed in the white world or a space where we realize just how much we're not ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And so we have those, you know, aha moments like, damn, nigga, like, oh, this is really what it is. So that's why I go back to the young folk, the 18 something, the 20 something, the 30s, like the ones of us who are really still trying to figure it out. We're getting hit with that reality now because you see that, yeah, you can be yourself and actually be great at what you do and get paid for it.
Yeah.
So even if it happens, you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it happens, you know, in small numbers, it can happen. So I think collectively, though, like you said, women, to y'all, it's an end game. Like when we say, you know, till death do us part, I think for men, you have to show up for yourself to realize, like, yeah, at what point is your life worth you, not worth anything other than you?
Mm-hmm.
You showing up as your whole self in this life, as that being the goal of the whole shit.
Yeah.
Not about how much bread you got, not about, like, you know what I'm saying, your ability to buy this or do that, but you actually may be leaving a blueprint for your bloodline, for your family, for your legacy, to actually understand what they're made of and what these lessons actually look like from a context that they can understand you. So it goes back into how are we actually forming that conversation? Because to me, a lot of it, you know, the only critique I have is that it's centered in capitalism. It's centered in a context that looks like us ascribing to white standards of success. And that's just some shit that, like, nah, like, that's not, our heroes weren't, like, fucking Malcolm, like, died, bro, with fucking 13, like, he ain't had no money. Like, none, bro. Like, and I can empathize with that because I've been in situations where, to people, to the world, I'm this big, bad, powerful nigga, but I'm broke, Holmes. Mm-hmm. Like, like, I don't have it. Like, I don't. So to know that I've had to find power in spaces where I didn't have the tangible power, but to know that has to carry me. I got to keep going, keep walking when I'm getting hit. Like, yeah, we got to start telling stories of us finding ourselves in vulnerable spaces, not just in spaces of comfort and privilege. Nigga, can you reminisce in the middle of and on the front line while you sitting there? Can you really think about what's going on? Can you be conscious enough to realize that you can still be mindful while war is going on, of the lessons, of the things you got to, like, figure out about yourself? You're learning while you're fighting. It's not just fight. No, it's fight, learn, strategize, then go back out. Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? It's go, get hit, fuck up, ooh, go sit down, bam, what did I learn? Now I'm back out here, right? We not taking, it's not that rinse and repeat cycle for us. It's just fight.
Right, and I think, oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
I think part of our other problem is that we've conformed ourselves so much to their version of America, right? White America. And it's like, when you're talking about the structure of the world that we live in, we don't feel comfortable and secure enough to say the world we live in is Black America. You know what I mean? And we've been taught to play their game. And because we're playing their game, we're making it their world.
I'll even say, I don't even know, and that's kind of what I was going to get to. I don't even know if we know what that looks like. You know, I think, you know, people love quoting Dr. King when he says, you know, I think I'm leading my people into a burning building. I don't think that energy has escaped us. I think as we fight for freedom, quote unquote, as we fight for equity, equality, whatever it is you want to call it, it's still modeling after our oppressors, right?
Yeah.
So we're not fighting for equity within our own Blackness. We're fighting for equity in obtaining what it is they have. So I think when you're saying, like, I think when we say Black America, I think there's too much of a emphasis on the word America and not enough emphasis on the word Black.
Man, wow, real deal.
So I, you know, I think when we talk about what does the movement look like moving forward, I think it's understanding cultures and philosophies outside of ourselves.
If we're the builders, what are we building and who are we building for?
Exactly. Because if we're building a house that looks just like the one we escaped from, we will have all the possessions from the old house and the new house.
Right.
So,
I don't want that shit. I don't want that shit.
Exactly.
I don't want that shit.
Exactly.
So that goes to the question when you're saying, like, we're trying to obtain what they already have, but then that goes to the dream that we've been sold. You know what I mean? And so, like, because this is what they have, we're convinced that it must be what we should want too.
Right.
Yeah. And then too, I'll say this, right, as a first generation African American, so my context with this, the duality of which I see to have this Black experience, is to know that in real life there we don't know anything else. Like, and I'm saying this from the standpoint of, you talking about first generation African American who has not been to Africa as an adult or as an adolescent enough to remember anything. So I'm a nigga, right? So to understand the context, that duality, and knowing that at some point I will have to go to Africa, because that is literally just a part of my experience, being who I am and where I was born into. So to know that there are other like, it's different to know it here, right? But to feel it, to really, that's why a lot of us coming into this awakening and realize like America just ain't the shit like we've been told. Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it's other shit out here, my nigga. Like,
absolutely.
So where the world now is so small to where, like, I got partners in London, you know what I'm saying? You got people in different spaces connected with you, where at what point do we get out of this American box mentally and you know what I'm saying, spiritually, to where now we realize, like, man, the earth is our turf, literally. Yeah. So like you said, the movement, even the fight itself now doesn't even have to be a physical one. We fighting right now. Like this, like, what the fuck? This is technology. Like, we legit talking about, we have like the privilege to be radical enough to talk about this type of stuff. So I think collectively we need to start honoring the ancestors and realizing that we have literally all the tools necessary to get some shit going, nigga. Like, stop playing. But if we don't sit down enough to fuck with each other to realize, like, you know, with us, business is not business, it's personal. Nigga, I don't rock with you. I'm not gonna do business with you unless I know you. And Mike, you know, that's your shit. Like, like,
you already know.
Nigga, like,
that's my golden rule. I gotta know you.
So at what point will we realize that the reason why our empires and all that was so tight is probably because niggas knew each other in different places? Like, it's just the fact that we really, like, it was a social contract. Like, it's a common code of ethics, regardless of if your village moved a different way to my village. If y'all had, you know what I'm saying, women chiefs, if y'all had women with multiple husbands, if y'all got down, had this going on, if you had that work, that god or these gods, like, it was just still a mutual respect, right? At this point, that's not what's happening with us. It's very much so us mirroring our oppressor and goddamn beating each other up to the point to where we don't want to fight no more. We just want to say, shit, I'm gonna just stick with what I got. No, let's stop doing that shit.
Yeah. And what you said, mirroring our oppressors, like, and so much it goes down to we're mirroring them so much so where we target each other. We're doing it for them. You know what I mean? We're against each other. We're our own enemies to each other. We're taking each other down. Like, literally, you know, going back to the people thing. We looking at, you know, and the whole battles of like the different rap female artists where people can't comprehend that you can actually like two people that want, you know what I mean? Like, you can like both, but everybody, we have that mentality. We've been trained to pick one, right? You can only like one black person in this field, but they don't, we don't understand that we've been taught that from them. You know what I mean? And we're doing the work for them now. They got their hands clean, their hands is behind their back, and we're out here doing it for them. And
that man, you just said it, like, and we don't like to hear it, but in real life, like, black folks, we don't fuck with each other, we don't like each other, like, in terms of just day to day. You know what I'm saying? We love, like, and I'm talking to the smart niggas, the ones that went to school for, like, you know what I'm saying, emotional intelligence. Like, in real life, for everything that the book taught you, your spirit still has to actually, like, fall in line with that. For us, it don't work like that. With them, they can do 40 hours a week. Like, you know how it is, Crystal, like, going to mental health facilities, working, doing it, treating it like a job. Y'all know that's not us. So if your heart and your soul literally isn't into the work that you're doing with your people, then you are out of line. And you are incongruent with the whole fucking purpose of having the privilege to do the fucking work that you do. Like,
and we do that. We do that all the time. I went to Greenbrier Mall the other day. Now, first of all, that's by my office. Be clear, like, so I'm going up to Greenbrier Mall. You know what I'm saying? I'm with somebody, whatever, and he's like, you know, like, that whole vibe going. You know what I'm saying? I had to put Shawty in chat real quick, like, bro, you'll be quick to be over here at Linux, you know what I'm saying? Don't be doing this to your people, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's like our mentality is when we're around a whole bunch of black folks,
man, we
almost put ourselves on a higher pedestal as if, and that's a problem. Like, we're not sitting here looking at ourselves as equal to one another because we're out here leveling ourselves up as if we're the oppressor ourselves.
The isms,
Absolutely.
right? How can I be a better nigga than him? Like, I like the same shit he do. I got the same vices he got. It's just shit. I just have my shit a little better.
But then we do the same thing white folks do. We take from the hood and try to clean it off. You know what I'm saying? You got, I'll be dissing Atlanta, but not Atlanta like natives, but like transplant niggas. You got trap music, which is intrinsically hood spirituals, hood gospels. You got that shit, right? But because you're uncomfortable with where it comes from and where it's generated from, you take it and you turn into, you know, trap brunch and trap cycling and trap, you know, it's a hotel in fucking Midtown that play trap music. No, it don't belong there. Unless
a nigga called it that.
If you're not comfortable driving to where it is, then you don't need to be listening to it. You shouldn't be relating to it. And that goes for Black people. If you can't ride through Bankhead, you can't ride through, we talking about St. Louis, you can't ride through the North Side, you can't ride through JBL, you can't ride through Pruitt-Igoe, you can't ride through Compton, you can't ride through Coney Island, you can't ride through Little Haiti. If you can't ride, you know, you can't ride through Uptown New Orleans, you can't ride through, if you can't ride through them places and be in those places, eat in those places, patronizing those places, supporting those places, stay in those places. Then keep Future, keep, you know, Webby, keep Yo Gotti, keep all them niggas the fuck out your mouth. You have
thank you, nigga.
To take their music if you can't take the motherland that they came from.
Right.
Nigga, like, man, that's so real, bro. Like, for every person that hits you with a, and it's just the reality of it, like the othering that we do. I'm very intentional about my aesthetic, right? And y'all know I'm real intentional about my aesthetic. Like, nigga, like, I could dread home, so I know what I look like, and I know exactly how I'm coming in this space. So the fact that amongst the educated Blacks, the bougie Blacks, the ones that still wear respectability is law, nigga, like, niggas make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is law. You can't tell me no different. The hood that you goddamn be advocating for, getting grant money for, getting all that shit for, literally doing all the book shit for, that same shit that you advocating for and speaking towards, if you're not living it, you're incongruent. That's that healing word. Community-wise, if you as a Black, like Mike said, if you as a Black person cannot actually empathize with them Jay that you see on the corner, actually talk to a nigga and see who auntie that is, see who uncle that is, stop posting nigga dancing, and man, the nigga did that shit last night. I want to slap his ass. Uncle in the club cleaning up, but you know, like, you know what Unc is, bro. You know what I'm saying? Unc gonna find some drink. Unc gonna clean up the bottle. Unc gonna clean up the club to see who got the leftover bottles in the drink just to drink it. He gonna, you know what I'm saying? Unc gonna do what he do, but Unc gonna cut a fool, act up. We laugh at our pain. We laugh at our pain. But at the same time, and that's fine. It's a way in which we heal. But inversely, are you even holding space for these niggas that you getting entertainment from and getting comedic relief from? Your people, your family, your blood. I done seen so many niggas come to me on some, yeah, man, where you from? I'm from the South Side, bro. I'm from Riverdale. And literally be on some, by shit, man. You what? But first off, if you know anything about Atlanta, like Riverdale, it is not the hood. It became the hood simply because of the inhabitants of the space. Don't do that. Like, don't do that to my people, bro. Don't, like, I can tell you a story about the South Side, but what you won't do is cast something onto us that was given to us and created by motherfuckers that you're trying to be like, and you're trying to infiltrate their system, not to fuck it up, but to literally copy and paste for yourself. Exactly. We got a lot of selfish motherfuckers in here posing as brothers and sisters. Kinfolk ain't necessarily like
Stop trying to wash off the hood, dog.
Nigga,
stop trying to wash it off.
And stop being Black only on the weekend. Stop just going to church, going to fuck around optics, nigga. Stop going to fuck around with your man. No. And then stop also when it comes to politics, and that's something that we do in this space. Like, when we speak to it, a lot of us align ourselves with our people simply because it's comfortable. Simply because at the end of the day, like, you understand that you can get something out of it because of the narrative of the story, right? It look good, it sound good, like, you know, that people love an underdog story. So for all of us, the fortunate ones who made it out and got out and did that, like, you got all the acceptable niggas, right? I want you to challenge yourself to really sit with what makes you feel like you even have the privilege to speak towards issues that you know other individuals can speak to, can hold up that space, can do that work, can actually get that shit done. Yeah. At some point, we have to start accepting the fact that some of us in the diaspora are taking up space for other individuals that need to actually get the mic so they can allocate the proper resources to to the shit that need to get done. Yeah. Because some of us are literally just understanding like what success looks like from the context of like this white framework, but in reality, it's like, no, we got to start creating some other types of tangible heroes, other narratives, other storylines, community-wide. Like literally, I know I have 2 communities that I legit am invested in. South side of Atlanta, Clayton County, and Huntsville, Alabama. Like I can speak to that because I know the people here. I'm as much here as I'm there, damn near. You know what I'm saying? But I only feel that confident because I fuck around.
Yeah.
Like I can't say nothing because like I'm in the spots. I'm in the club. Like I'm here and I'm in with leadership and I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm at the protest and I'm, you know what I'm saying? I'm actually doing that to actually endear myself to have these conversations. So when I have it, I'm showing up like, yeah, this is me all the way, white people. Like, how you doing?
And you feel the community. You know what I mean? Like once you become a part of it and you really fool with it like that, you feel it, right? I know, and I've talked about it, you know, on different occasions. My heart drops differently when I see the police and I'm in Roswell than it does when I'm in College Park.
Nigga.
You know what I mean? My heart, it don't jump the same. It don't drop the same. My stomach don't turn the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
and when you're in a community, you gonna probably throw producers to it because it's really like a family when you really fool with it. But when you go to the outskirts and you know that ain't your area, but you're trying to fit in, they're gonna make it real known that you don't belong here and you're gonna feel it.
Look, you feel it. And my act of resistance, I think that's what we have to realize. Some of us have been privy into white spaces and we're simply just there. Like, don't take up spaces and be comfortable. Like, let white people be comfortable enough with you to where now you're being a coward by not actually making them uncomfortable. Like, they fuck with you, or you gonna see if they do or not. But some of us are in spaces where we actually have the privilege to be niggas and we're not.
Yeah.
And
I say this shit all the time. You want to scare some white folks? Ask them this. What they mean? like you in a motherfucking room with them, because that's what they do. Like for me, I'm always under the guys that like they test waters, right? They get you in that motherfucking room, you in that motherfucking meeting, and it's only you, and they say some dumb shit, and they look at you, and my response is always, "What they mean?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Clarify, please. Elaborate.
What they mean? What what do you mean what it looks like? What do you mean the vibe he gives you? What kind of vibe? What kind of vibe we talking about? A vibe based on what? What you know about him?
Yeah.
But again, you get a lot of black folks who just laugh. I'll be like, yeah. It's like, no, like I'm in the room talking for the niggas who ain't gonna never get in.
Yep.
Like, and that's kind of what you said, fool, like Crystal too. You always need to, it's not just business, it's always personal. It's always personal.
Always.
Because we couldn't get into the room on some personal shit.
Yeah.
For decades. We like I'm in hotels. For decades, niggas couldn't be none but servers, bus boys, and motherfucking maids, right? On some personal shit. It ain't had nothing to do with ability. It ain't had nothing to do with intelligence. It ain't nothing to do with any of that. It was just on some personal shit. So now I'm in the room and I'm on some personal shit. It ain't just working. It ain't just a job. I ain't just glad to be here. I don't give a fuck about being here if I can't be here as me.
Yep.
And being here as me is obligatory to the people outside of the room too. I bring them with me. That's who I'm talking to. That's who I'm talking for.
Yeah.
And I think when we center it back to the movement, you know, we need to get to a point where if you are going to lead, if you are going to be in the forefront, you need to be cognizant of everybody black that you represent. And I mean everybody. Not just the people that makes you comfortable. I'm talking about black women, black, you know, LGBTQ, like fat black folks, handicapped black folks, disabled black folks, black folks you ain't attracted to. Like all black folks need to be in the forefront of your mind if you're at the front. And that's how you shift the narrative.
Yeah.
You're not, we let a lot of niggas get away with saying they have a black agenda when they fucking don't. You ain't got a black agenda.
You got a you agenda.
Heterosexual male agenda.
Yeah.
That's a completely different motherfucking rhetoric. That's completely different. Like, nigga, you're not pro-black. You pro-you. That's what you pro.
Because to be pro-black will be to understand that you don't fall at the priority, you don't fall at the top of the priority list in terms of what we addressing, my nigga. Right. So in reality, like if we really want to attack this holistically, there are some things that we need to establish first that protect our women first, and that actually establish the foundational shit first before we get to the forefront. Because we've known this. Let's be real with you. We know what this country is. We know what this country does. We know how it works and operates. But at some point, we have to shift our collective priorities to be all on the same page and what we collectively fighting for. Because I know if my woman got it, baby, I got it. I'm straight. Yeah, well, one thing, if we really being honest with ourselves, man, the love of black women have a black man, like that's the shit that literally changes the world. Like y'all go, and white people know that. Like y'all will go hard with their ass. Y'all will be in the paint, but let their ass turn on yours. Yo, man, like anything connected to you, you going dummy. Fuck you, Karen. You got me fucked up.
All the way.
All the way, right? So that's that piece to where men, I hear so much rhetoric amongst us as brothers, especially in certain spaces, that speaks to our women being like the ops. And I'm like, nigga, have you ever really sat with the love that black women have for you, nigga? Like when you get locked up, you don't call your partner, you call your girl. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't get your social security to your partner, you get it to your girl, nigga. Like, you trust everything that we trust is always inherently in the feminine. So why can't we trust the feminine to do what they've always done? And that's to make sure we straight. Yeah. Like, do your work, nigga. You gonna be good if you do your work, but you don't want to do your work.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I was thinking about, Mike, when you were telling me like the background in the beginning of this, and you were saying how the white men were talking about how the women were known, or they were saying that they were going to be the ones that go off and do all this type of like deceitful stuff. In my head, I was just like, they don't know no black woman, because the black woman is known to be the most loyal. You know what I'm saying? She's going to be loyal, period. You know what I mean? No matter what pain or whatever, she's going to hold you down just on the strength of that's who we are.
Yeah.
And probably what it really was they done figured out your motherfucking ass.
Yeah.
So like they done went back to the motherfucking crew and said, nah, we gonna skip this house because he on some fuck shit. We gonna keep walking. We gonna keep motherfucking going. That's what the fuck happened.
Yeah, and it's some of that discernment piece to realize that for us, sometimes justice looks like actually leaving some of us to be where we are. Like you can't work with that what don't want to be worked with. You know what I'm saying? So black men, is so much of us that literally project this, oh, you don't love me, or you don't want to be, you don't support me. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't hear me. It's like, no, you're not showing up, sir. Like you're only showing up when you're comfortable, when you want to, like when you're in a space to where you feel like you got control or got power. That's when you find your words. Like that's when you find your words. That's when you find like, nah, nigga. Like find it when you
talk your chest out.
Yeah. Like say it with your chest when you're wrong. Say it with your chest when you fucked up. Say it with your chest because that is what strengthens a bond, by speaking to the fact that even in defeat or personal defeat or loss, you know, even in those moments, I still got my power. I'm still a man. And some of us have to really legit sit with reparenting ourselves to realize that those moments that told you that in your pain and in your error and in your fuck up or your like whatever you did that was wrong, the hurt of you fucking your baby mama over, certain shit around your children, your father, your mother, like sit with that because you still a man despite your mistakes. Like that's the part. Well, with that narrative, is like so many niggas be like, I'm not shit, I ain't shit. Like we really comfortable with that. And we know our women gonna love us. The only people that's gonna love us are our women. So we okay with it. We good. So because we know it. But at what point do we like change that narrative? Like that gotta happen.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Well, dog, we all over the motherfucking place.
You know, we start getting in the sauce after a while.
You know how we do.
Yeah.
So I didn't goddamn probably wrote down 4-5 different topics for goddamn next time we gonna get into it. So shit, like if y'all, you know, whoever out there watching, whoever gonna watch it, because you know I'm motherfucking upload it, bro. These motherfuckers spitting. So if you think there's some shit, wait till the motherfucking podcast jump, bro. That shit,
yes, sir.
That shit gonna be crazy, my
nigga. They're just trying to count right now.
This shit like you really just watching us develop chemistry, rhythm, all that kind of shit. So this all just practice work for real. So
practice. We gonna be in the same room. The energy is gonna be.
Yeah, we're gonna be in the same room. Yep. So the thing about the podcast, the reason why we're not holding off, but it's scheduled is because we all gonna be in the same room. So
yeah.
So season 1 will be filmed, recorded in Atlanta. Cause you know, I got rules. 1, I gotta know you in person, and 2, we all gotta be in the same room. And so since these niggas outnumber me in terms of you know what I'm saying, goddamn, you know, we gonna go to Atlanta, we gonna do it. You know,
I got a
fuck with Atlanta
piece,
anyway.
I got a 15-piece honey hot with your name on it.
Hey, man, I need
pepper sprinkles.
You look, I don't see you read my mind. Gotta have a little pepper sprinkles. You know
gotta have a little pepper sprinkles.
Got to. You know
I'll take that. Y'all niggas gotta run me by
lemonade drink. You feel me?
Y'all niggas gotta run me by the Auburn Market.
Okay.
Goddamn in Edgewood. It's if you go in the market, I know niggas don't know. If you go in the market in the middle of that motherfucker, it's a countertop soul food spot. It's a couple that own it. The lady named Mimi. When I used to stay down there, I used to hit that bitch every week, and she knew I go order by heart. So whenever I drop down, I go see Mimi.
That's what's up, dog.
When I get down, y'all niggas run me to the market because I can holler at my girl.
That's what's up.
Go down to the market today, be like, where Mimi?
Mimi. When I came down for Kelsey wedding, she had, cause she Ethiopian. Her husband was there. I had just missed it. She had flew back to Ethiopia for like 2 weeks. I was like, damn. But whenever I touch down, as soon as I get down, run me by the market.
Yeah. Look, we're gonna go there first.
They got a sweet potato cobbler. That nigga, I ain't found that bitch nowhere else. So you already know I'm looking forward to it.
It's on, man. It's on.
So again, man, wrapping up this first session, I'm gonna upload it. So you know, definitely check it out. With my dog at the Trap Therapist with an _. My dog Fool. My dog Crystal at Let's Be Crystal Clear. My folk, man, my goddamn folk. I only do shit with my people. So trust me, if I'm on with you, I'm fucking with you. Them my motherfucking people. So for not, if you fuck with me, you gotta fuck with them. So follow us on the gram. Everything we got going. Look forward to it, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We kept y'all for 2 hours. So y'all get y'all brunch on, get y'all eat on, you know, cut that grass, whatever it is y'all gonna do. Again, shout out to my LBs, baby. We 11 today.
Hey, I'm finna shout it up for my dog.
Shout out my ace dog. Shout out my tail dog. I'm gonna see my tail in a couple hours. We gonna get to it, baby.
Hey, what's up with the birthday hot, dog?
Nah.
Let us see what's up, dog.
Nah, dog. You can't haze me into that, dog.
Hey, look, fuck that shit. When this shit blow, nigga, when this shit get big, I'm telling y'all, I'm finna get this nigga the hot on camera. And y'all go see him in full form. I mean, got to, dog. You know I gotta hate you. That's the only thing I can do, dog.
All right, man. Fuck with it, man. Love y'all, boys. Love y'all, man. Later on.
All right, peace.